Hey there lads and ladies, it is Petrifying Pumpkins here, and today I will be doing an analysis on the brand new Firewall Zero Hour gameplay that we saw at the E3 2018 interview with First Contact's creative strategist Adam Orth with Hideo Kojima's casual lover Jeff Keighley. On top of that, I want to go over what Adam said in the interview, as well as a couple of other bits and pieces of new info that's floating around. Firewall is playable to the masses on the E3 show floor, so don't be surprised to see a flood of new impressions and articles coming out. And also don't forget that Firewall will be featured tomorrow, Wednesday, at 10:15 Pacific Standard Time on the PlayStation E3 livestream coverage. It's where I'm expecting to get a release date for Firewall, so make sure you watch that. But until then, let's take a closer look at the interview to see if we can see some new details. So a lot of the information is stuff I've already talked about on this channel. Adam describes the game, what it is, how it plays, how there's 9 maps, 3 locations for the maps, all that stuff. Interestingly, to me, Jeff asked Adam what he thought about the current state of VR in general, to which Adam replied that it's in an embryonic state and that they're being careful not to follow the rules of VR when they make their game, and they're okay with breaking some eggs to make some omelets or something to that effect. Adam also reiterates that both AIM and DualShock 4 are supported, and once again he tells us that the DualShock 4 is the way he prefers to play. I've seen some people on Reddit finding that hard to believe and thinking that he's only saying that so that people without the AIM controllers won't feel put off from Firewall, but I think there's every chance that the DualShock 4 could work as well as the AIM. Maybe I'll play the AIM while I'm standing and use the DualShock 4 if I'm sitting down or something like that. That sounds like it makes a bit of sense. We'll have to wait and see before we know for sure, of course. Jeff mentions that he played Firewall at the E3 Judges Day, where he says he played in a hotel map. And as far as I can tell, we haven't seen that hotel map in action yet or in screenshots. They'll let me know if I'm wrong about that. My guess is that the hotel map is in one of the 3 UK based maps. Not that that matters. Adam then goes on to say that the game will have a ton of weapons, a ton of gear, a ton of skills, and a bunch of cosmetic microtransactions, saying this is a full AAA VR shooter. Now, I've seen some people, some of my subscribers even, having a bit of a negative reaction to the news of there being microtransactions, which is kind of a knee-jerk reaction, but an understandable one, I think. And people were wondering, why I didn't talk about it. Well, for one thing, I'm fairly sure that this was revealed a few months ago already, and I already did talk about it back then. And for another thing, I really don't have any problems with microtransactions as long as they are cosmetic only. I'm not going to be forced to buy them. You're not going to be forced to buy them. They don't give anyone an advantage, so it doesn't make it pay to win. And if I really enjoy the game and want to support the devs, I might purchase some cosmetics. Remember, VR gaming is very small. There's only 2 million PSVR units sold out there in the wild. The last time we got an official report on that, that's 6 times less than the Visa has sold right now. And everyone considers the Visa a failure. It's a laughingstock, it's a joke. So if a studio is going to put the time and effort into bringing a quality game to PSVR, I'm going to support that, and hopefully it will lead to them being able to continue to support that game post-launch. That's my take on it. If you disagree, that's fine. I respect your opinion. Anyway, with all that out of the way, let's get to the gameplay that we saw. One quick thing I want to point out is that this gameplay does not have any audio to go with it. It's just visual, and sometimes it cuts between off-screen TV footage and then full screen. So just pointing that out right now so you're prepared. So the very first thing we see on the TV is the match is about to start in the Kill House map. There's a timer counting down as the player inspects his weapon. You can see 2 teammates beside him, and then the screen fades to black very briefly before the match starts. First thing you see is the laptop on the table. Now we know that the only mode in this game revolves around either attacking or defending a laptop. So seeing as they spawned right beside the laptop, we can deduce that this player is on the defending team. The gameplay then goes full screen, so we get a much better look, and we can see that the player is about to place defensive measures on the walls. You can see when he aims this gadget at the wall and floors that the end of this aiming arc turns either green or red. Green meaning the device can be planted there, red meaning it cannot. But what is the device itself? I'm not exactly sure. The most obvious answer is that it's an explosive of some kind that can be stuck to walls and maybe explodes when it senses an enemy nearby, or maybe you need to trigger it yourself. It's also possible that it is just a motion sensor device of some kind that lets the player know when an enemy is beside us. It looks like one of those ice hockey pucks to me, and the player places it quite close to the ground. It looks like it would be very difficult to spot that if you were on the enemy team, unless you were really paying close attention to your surrounding. Also, we can tell that this device is mapped to the L1 button, thanks to the HUD that floats behind the gun, changing from 2 to 1 over the L1 button, and an image of the device is also there. We already know that the L2 button is for grenades, and this player appears to have a flashbang or a smoke grenade going by the symbol on the HUD over the L2 prompt. Also, I'd like to note that this is the first time we've seen gameplay of Firewall Zero Hour with smooth turning enabled. All the other trailers and demos had click turning, which I personally hate, so it's really nice to see this, even though it was confirmed to be in the game a long time ago. As the player moves, depending on the speed of his or her movement, you can also see some blinders creeping in. So blinders are the dark kind of shadows that creep in along the edges, and they're often used in VR games to help alleviate motion sickness. They are another thing that I don't like, but I've no doubt we'll be able to disable those if we want, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. And it's nice to have these things in the game if you're the kind of person who has a weak stomach when it comes to VR. Next, the player turns and we can see the outline of his teammates through the wall. Nothing new there, but we can also see the yellow outline of two objects through the wall. There's also a white box-shaped outline on the other side of the laptop wall. I wonder if the yellow outlines are access points. Access points are things on the map that the enemy team can use to locate the laptop, so it would make sense that the defending team would be able to see these important gameplay objects in order to defend them from the attacking team. As for the white box, it could be some kind of resupply box, maybe an ammo crate or something. Player then goes on to plant his second hockey puck looking device on this wooden crate. We get a better look at it here, so let me know in the comments below if you know exactly what this thing is. The player then meets up with two of his teammates, and we can see that the white outlines disappear once you have a clear line of sight with your teammates. That's interesting to note because in the heat of a firefight, when things get a little bit crazy, this could allow for you to accidentally shoot your teammates by mistake if you're not careful. If this game supports friendly fire, which I hope it does to add to the tension, so make sure you know who you're shooting at. We can see the screen on the player's arm functions as a mini-map, but remember this as I'll come back to it later. Here we see another white outline through a wall. This time the object looks round. I'm not sure what that might be, perhaps supplies of some kind. Let me know in the comments again with your ideas of what you think that is. Next, we see the player place a supply box on the table, which is something we've not seen before. It looks like it might be a medical supply box of some kind, judging by the way it looks, but it really could be anything. An X button prompt appears over it once it's placed, so we can assume the X button will be used to pick up supplies. In fact, the X button seems to be just the general interact button. Then the player goes to a crate on the table and picks up cryptocurrency. So this is the currency you'll be using in the game to buy new weapon attachments and gear and all that kind of stuff. Interestingly, it wasn't outlined through the wall, meaning you'll have to keep an eye out for it yourself. It's also possible that a teammate placed it there. Maybe that's the perk of one of the operators or something like that. Maybe not. We get a better look at the minimap display on the player's arm here. We see the light blue arrow in the middle is you, the player. The green arrows appear to be your teammates, but there's also a yellow, orange, and darker blue arrow on the minimap. I'm not sure what they symbolize, but that's not all that's on the screen. We can see a timer on the very bottom that currently sits at 000000. And on top of the screen, you can see a percentage indicator which is currently sitting at 0%. Now I'm not sure what the timer is for, but I'm guessing that percentage bar at the top shows how close the enemy team is to hacking into the laptop. That would be my guess anyway. Next, the player reloads his gun and we see a nice lighting effect on the screen of the device. But if you pay close attention to the weapon itself, you'll see there's a little dog tag type thing hanging off the side of it with a USA flag printed on it. The tag moves around as you move the gun and is likely one of the cosmetic options that Adam Orth was talking about. It's hardly going to affect the gameplay, but it's there if you want it. Here we see another outline through the wall. This time it's a blue one and appears to be the same shape as the dark blue icon we saw on the minimap. What is that? I'm not sure. Let me know your ideas below. The player picks up the pace here, which suggests there is a sprint button. You can tell because the blinders kick in around the edges. Next we see the outline of our teammate through the wall again. This time his outline changes from white to yellow as he has just been downed by an enemy player. There is reviving in this game, so being downed does not mean you are out. Unless you bleed out or the enemy finishes you off. You can still be saved for a limited amount of time. We also see here that there is a kill feed, which is very traditional for an online multiplayer first-person shooter. The player then approaches this white outline on the wall, which appears to be one of the access points I talked about earlier. The X button doesn't appear over it as the player gets close because I'm guessing only the attackers can interact with this. It's the defender's job to keep them off it. The player progresses towards the other access point where a gunfight has already broken out. His teammate is still down and an enemy comes through the doorway. The enemy immediately tosses what appears to be a frag grenade right at the player. You can see the grenade has a red outline around us to help us identify the danger more easily. The player gets off a couple of shots and fairly quickly downs the enemy. It's hard to know how many shots it took to down that enemy because we don't know if he took damage prior to entering that doorway. But it looked like the player's first shot missed and the second shot is the one that downed him. And by doing so, we learned that the player's name is Spaceball1, which is not important, but from here on out we'll call him Spaceball. Spaceball immediately does the right thing and runs to his teammate, Hyperion, to revive him by holding X. By doing this, we see that he gets rewarded with experience points. What's interesting there is that he didn't seem to gain any experience for downing the enemy. Spaceball turns around, allowing Hyperion to gain revenge on the man who downed him, as we can see in the kill feed. But it's a short-lived victory as another enemy comes in and downs the same teammate again, before being downed himself by the player's other teammate who was hiding in the hallway and appears to be wielding a shotgun. The shotgunner then appears to take his time walking towards the downed enemy before executing him. Not that there is any time to enjoy this because yet another enemy has appeared, this time from the rear flanking the player. He gets at least one shot off on Spaceball, causing a red damage effect at the edges of his vision before Spaceball reloads, giving us a clearer look at the screen. Here I can now see that those yellowy orangey type symbols are actually the access points, and now we also see a red dot too, which is the enemy shooting at Spaceball, I believe. I'm not sure why he's on the minimap. Maybe when you open fire your location is revealed. Maybe he tripped one of the motion sensor hotkey thingies. Maybe you can mark enemies for teammates. It's unclear right now. We get a great look here at the beauty of Viewer as Spaceball leans out from his cover with his weapon at the ready. He goes on to pass by another hockey puck looking thing. This one is placed far more blatantly and was likely placed there by a teammate, seeing as it has a white outline. Also notice that the damage effect fades away over time and then completely disappears, which may hint at health regeneration. Or maybe he picked up or used a health object that I didn't notice, I couldn't see it. The feed then cuts to off-screen footage, making it more difficult for us to see. Player appears to take damage as he walks into this room here, but then the camera cuts away so we don't see what happens exactly. The camera shows the TV again, right as Spaceball gets downed, and we finally get to see what death looks like in this game. As soon as you are down, your viewpoint is placed directly behind your character, so you watch your character fall to the ground like an outer body experience type thing. As that happens, a big meter appears on the screen with the percentage displayed. The percentage drops in chunks as Spaceball continues to get shot while he's down. However, it slows at 46% as the enemy stops shooting him. It still drops fairly quickly, however, as he bleeds out. The enemy then stands over Spaceball, aiming his gun down in his head before finishing him off. The match then appears to immediately end after Spaceball's death. I'm guessing he was the last surviving member of his team, and when your team dies, the round is over. After a very brief black screen, we see that the teams have switched roles, with Spaceball now being an attacker, and we get a look here at a female operator before the gameplay goes full screen again, luckily for us. The first thing I noticed here is the screen display has changed completely. Instead of showing a mini-map or radar type thing, it shows the number 02, which we've seen in the screenshots in one of my other analysis videos. What does 02 mean? I'm not too sure. Things get a bit crazy next as the female teammate, who is crouching by the way, appears to start contorting her body in bizarre ways during a firefight. You'll be used to this type of thing if you played Farpoint. I'm not sure if I'd call this a glitch or just something that comes with being an online VR game with motion controller support that we just have to accept until the technology and techniques improve. This might look funny, but it is possible that this could cause a lot of frustration. For example, if you've got a nice headshot lined up in an enemy and then all of a sudden his head sinks down to his chest while his gun remains exactly where it was, that could be a pain. We'll have to wait and see. It's worth noting that this is the only time we see a character model behave this way. Could be an issue with that particular player not being tracked correctly or something like that. Anyway, she appears to down the enemy who just opened that door, and then another player approaches that doorway. Looking inside, it appears as if someone has popped a smoke grenade in there, and the teammate almost immediately gets downed. He should have stood at the corner and peeked in, which is, he's just making a huge waste of that viewer potential. Shortly after this, Spaceball and the Stretchy Lady are ambushed in the hallway and quickly downed, leaving one teammate alive. This gives us a look at the spectate system in this game. We see you just stand around in a room, but you can also use the D-pad to cycle around different spots on the map. There's also a hack progress bar to keep you in the loop, so even if you die, you can still assist your living teammates by giving them intel, as long as you're the communicating type, which you really should be for this game. Here we see a nice elevated view of the kill house map that really shows off how maze-like it is, and I can already feel how claustrophobic it feels to be playing it. I'd say there'll be more jump scares on this map than any horror film in the last 30 years. The feed cuts back to off-screen and the last teammate dies. The words "contract revoked" appears on the screen, meaning that Spaceball lost. We know that he lost as a defender, and now he's lost as an attacker. But it would be interesting to see if both teams win one round. How was round 3 decided? Are they randomly placed on either the attacking or defending team? Or would Spaceball go back to defending, seeing as he was just an attacker? What do you think? A new match begins on the TV screen. This time it appears to be in the server room map, and the player, who is on the defending team, appears to immediately throw a flashbang on spawn, being a massive dick to his teammates. We get a quick glimpse of his device's screen again, and once again it shows 02. We get full screen footage again, and the map appears to open out into some kind of underground area. It looks like you're in some kind of tunnels or something, I'm not sure exactly what though. And then the gameplay cuts off and we see no more. So that's it for the analysis. The game certainly appears to have come a long way in the 6 months since it was revealed, and it looks like a finished product. The only negative takeaway for me was that wonky animation with the Stretchy Lady, but I'm not sure if they can really do anything about that. I just hope this doesn't lead to people online doing dirty tricks to get their character to be really hard to hit and stuff like that. But everything else looked amazing. And that's on a flat display. It's going to be way better to actually experience that with 3D audio and all that stuff whenever it does launch on PSVR. Hopefully we'll know tomorrow when exactly that is. Okay lads and ladies, that's it for this video. It took quite a bit of effort to get it out this fast, so if you could do the usual shite to help me out, that would be very much appreciated. Above all, share this video wherever it makes sense. The more people that know about Firewall, the better. This game doesn't have nearly enough hype that it should have. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow to talk about the Firewall PlayStation livestream interview thingy, and later on this week I want to do a video talking about PSVR at E3 2018 in general, and my concerns about it, as well as some good things too, it's not all bad. Anyway, until then, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.